Talking about the police, I mean, where we live, some people are gonna be watching this gonna probably think we don't really say that anymore. People from Tottenham, but yeah, where I come from, the community I come from in Tottenham, we call the police the boy them, the feds. Some people call them the feds,
Federale.
federale, and all sorts. And just in general, like obviously, I don't know how much work or even at the moment if you've done any work with the police or whatever, but just even on a personal one, like do you never do you think? Because I think it's all there to see for whatever reasons, isn't it? Like, why do you think police get special treatment? Like, compare, for example, if I shoot somebody, I'll get arrested, which rightly so, right? If I shoot somebody, I'll get arrested. But sometimes this theme again, growing up, look, police sometimes doing shootings as well. Because again, we're talking about crime, right? If you commit a crime, it's a crime, and regardless of what position you're in. If you do this, you do that, you should pay for it, and you know what I'm saying. But why do you think police? I mean, 9% out of 10, 9 out of 10. It's like from what I see. Anyway, I might be wrong, but from what I see, it's like police get special treatment. Like, yeah, what do you think? Why do you think police get special treatment? And again, not to put words into your mouth, do you think police get special treatment? You get me?
Um, I don't. It's interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of systems that were put into place within British society that never had the consideration
Yeah.
of marginalized groups in mind, and one of those systems is policing. And there's a lot of conversations and a lot of research, a lot of it's always all over the place.
Yeah.
It's being spoken about in so many different spaces, media, within public sector, within people's homes. Just there's a lot of discourse around policing, and a lot of the issues that underpin their relationships specifically with marginalized groups, including Black communities. And there, within those conversations, there is conversations about the lack of equality, the lack of fairness, and what you're mentioning around, like, it doesn't seem fair that they seem to get away with things. I can't speak entirely on it, because I don't have in-depth knowledge to that extent.
Yeah.
However, what
Completely,
I will say is, I think the one thing is that policing, as police officers and policing as a concept, they have authority. And I think this is part of the issue, is that they're given powers to execute, to maintain, social order and stuff like that. But there's that lack of cohesion between marginalized groups. And so when something bad does happen, irrespective of what processes they have in place, if the outcome doesn't seem to benefit, in the opinion of, I'm considering broader societies, but in the opinion of broader societies, if it doesn't seem to have any benefit, then that's not the right course of action to take. However, members of the public are powerless, and I think this is where the juxtaposition happens, and this is where the core issue lies, is that paradigm, in that members of the public are powerless. Police have the powers, but they also claim, there's also this rhetoric that they are here to serve and protect, and they for example, when policing came about, Sir Robert Peel invented policing initially in the Metropolitan back in like the 1800s and whatever. But he created a load of principles, and one of the principles was that you are the public. You've probably heard this phrase before, but this is where it actually comes from.
Yeah, police used to tell me the same thing, the same time. I'm going to be completely
Police
honest.
are the public
When I was a bit,
police.
when I was a bit young, sorry to even cut you down.
No.
Like when I was a bit young, police used to tell me that kind of nonsense. Obviously, mentally, I was in a different place than I am now. I just used to tell them, you're full of shit about. But yeah.
But no, but it's that idea.
That was then, by the way.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm not here to, but it's that rhetoric, it's that concept. It's like, how do these two things mutually, how can they mutually work when they're not working? There's evidence to show that it's not working. So to put into context what you're talking about, in that, to put into context in what you're talking about, consequences of actions, like I said, irrespective of whether, I don't know the stats. I got the questions last night, so I couldn't do as much research.
Of course. No, it's all good. You're good.
I don't know what the stats are, but there are processes in place within policing. But from a public's point of view, it doesn't seem that anything's happening. But I think the issue here is, it's a bigger problem. It's that, yes, the police have got these powers. Processes, yeah, they may exist, but nothing's being, that there isn't that relationship, or it doesn't appear to seem like things are serving the public's best interest. But then at the same time, from a policing perspective, this is just me being a devil's advocate here. But like, from a policing perspective, they think, well, we've got these processes in place, we're following these processes, and it just so happens that at the end of this process, the police officer gets to keep their job. But then from a public's point of view, it's like, but if I, as Joe Public, went and did that, how am I going to keep
I would be behind bars before even people can say
but
guilty.
Yeah. But I think the point in the matter is it goes straight back to what I mentioned earlier about a lot of systems and structures were put in place and processes have been put in place, and they haven't considered everybody in mind. So there are things that are going on that are unjust and can appear to be unfair. But it's just the way in which, and it's unfortunate, and you know, I advocate for this all the time, and I shout it out in my research and stuff like that. There are processes that are in place that are not inherently fair, and that's not fair, you know. But I don't know if I've answered your question, but
I'm not gonna lie, you've answered it perfectly. I'm just proper listening to you, just saying, yeah, because again, it's like you're sharing your aspect, like the way you look at certain things, and it's only personal from, you get me, from where you can see things. And I'm just looking at it again. You know, sometimes when people say it's always good to get other people's angles, take on things, how they, you know, how they view things and whatever, because you know, I might see things from a completely different perspective than you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I completely hear where you're coming from. Yeah,
there's this distinction, and in my opinion, something needs to be done around, I don't know what that something is. So I don't know what that something is, but something definitely needs to be done around understanding what the distinction is and the impact that these distinctions have on people, members of the public, especially marginalised groups, and working to rectify it with marginalised groups in mind, because you know, things shouldn't keep carrying on the way that they do, because if history tells you one thing, it's not going to get any better.
For real. And even with your studies, yeah, another thing that I realized, like, once again, like, you know, I might be wrong, and some people might think this word sacrifice, you know, like this word sacrifice has got a different meaning to so many different, you know, so many different people. But I see, once again, like I said, you do so much research, like you put so much into like your studies. Like, what does the word sacrifice mean to you?
It's a really big thing because I've sacrificed a lot, and it's, you know, friendships, relationships, time, but I'd probably correlate sacrifice and discipline together, because I try not to sacrifice, like when it comes to my joy, my happiness, my peace.
I love that.
I'm not doing it, you know. But then I also acknowledge I do have to sometimes sacrifice my time. So sacrificing sleep is definitely one thing. I mentioned to you earlier, I woke up late today, guys. I'm so sorry.
You made it feel good, man.
Yeah, I managed to get to London, but I woke up like later than I intended to. But my body clearly told me tonight's not the night to sacrifice sleep. So, you know, it is what it is.
Bless.
But, you know, sometimes sacrificing time with family, and I do really try, and I'm very, very strong on family. I love my family, you know, like I said, they're always there for me if I need them. I try not to sacrifice time with family, but I do also acknowledge I have to. So, you know, like sometimes shortening my... Once upon a time, I used to visit my grandparents like 4 or 5 times a week. Now I have to cut that sometimes back to once or twice a week, or, you know, once every couple of weeks, and, you know, try and call them when I can. So there's the sacrifice of family, you know, sacrifice of going out and stuff like that. But there's also maintaining discipline, which, you know, is kind of like just towing the line. So just being a little...
Sorry to even cut you. I love that, the way you just said that one, because it's like my head is just ringing, like, sacrifice and discipline, because it's like I'm deeping it. Like, you need to have this. If you're gonna like basically sacrifice certain things and literally, you know, do whatever you need to do, you need to have discipline. Like you said, like sometimes with your cut some time short with your family. You know, how many times you go see your family, because sometimes even you might cut off, you know, some friends who. Sometimes you might basically like cut off certain things like partying because you need the sleep. Otherwise, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're tired. So it's like, yeah, you need that discipline. If you're going to, sacrifice and oh my God. So, man, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, that's one of the things of the day. Yeah.
So when I sacrifice my time, I realize I have to be very disciplined with that time. So if I give myself an hour of the day to write, on writing. And do you know what? Also, like just to add on to that, I no longer punish myself, which was something I used to do a lot. If in the hour I don't write 5,000 words, it is what it is. It didn't happen. It'll
Yeah.
happen tomorrow. Do you know
What
what I
used to
mean?
happen before when before, like you said, when you used to punish yourself and used to beat yourself up for like before, if you set a target and you never achieve that target, like how do you used to feel before?
Oh, I used to feel guilty. Sometimes, like to the point it would make me sick. Like I'd probably go
Oh,
and
bless
vomit
you,
or
man.
something, which is sorry TMI.
Nah, nah, nah,
But
nah, nah.
like it
This is
would
reality, man. It happens.
it
All
would
of us vomit
really
sometimes.
it would really rile me up. But then
Bless
like
you, man. Yeah.
in we were talking earlier about like soul searching and finding myself, but in that process I acknowledged a lot of like toxic traits that some of the
Yeah.
Caribbean generation of my parents put onto me, and like the pressure of always trying to
Yes.
achieve. And it's like, do you know what? I know who I am. I know I will do it. If it doesn't happen today, it'll happen tomorrow. So if
For real.
I don't write my 5,000 words, but the girlies are telling me there's cocktails in Birmingham City Centre,
Yeah.
then I'm going to the cocktails and
Come
will
on.
keep writing.
Yeah.
So
I hear
yeah,
you.
a little bit of sacrifice, a little bit of discipline, but
Mm-hmm.
it's paying off slowly. So.
And like in terms of like you see like in the long run, in terms of like because even with this one, I had to get to a certain age to understand that you see like with abuse, there's two different types of abuse basically, like mentally and physically, right? And again, it takes time. Sometimes, yeah, like I said, it took me a little while to understand that there's two types of abuse. So for you personally, like what do you think? In the long run, what do you think messes up a person's head more? Or yeah, what do you think messes up a person's head more? Like physical abuse or like mental abuse?
Um, this is again probably something that's quite subjective. I think
Yeah,
it's
of
dependent on
course,
the
a subject.
individual,
Yeah,
and
of
there are
course,
so many more forms of abuse as well.
of
And
course.
just if this is a bit of a trigger warning, I'm sorry. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
Because people that are watching have probably been subject to types of abuse, but I'm not going to share my own anecdotes because I don't feel comfortable enough. But they both have negative impacts in their own separate ways, and
a
they can
million
manifest
percent.
in different ways. And another thing is they coexist in a lot of spaces
Yeah.
for some people. Like I said, there are different types of abuse: emotional, mental, financial, physical, and all this stuff. So I can't say one trumps the other because it depends on
On the
who you
person
are, and and
and your
how it.
circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. And there's even instances where people are being abused and they don't even know. So.
Absolutely, and it goes on like that's even one of the saddest things that till this day, like it's like someone out there in the world or whatever, this country or whatever, someone out there is getting abused, but like quietly and they're suffering in silence, and that's one of the most horrible things like any human could ever go through, man, woman, child, whatever, to go through abuse like in silence when you feel like for whatever reason you cannot tell anyone, you cannot open up. Even quickly, even talking about other countries and how systems are in place. Talking about even this, you can imagine. Obviously, there's some countries out there who, because of the system, because of the way they run, however, women or men, or whatever, people feel like they don't have anywhere to go because the system is not really placed for them to go and seek help and actually feel comfortable enough to open up and actually feel like they can get supported. So it's like even with just talking about that, like you can imagine places all over the place in Africa, wherever, like there's so many places where people are getting abused, but they feel like one, I cannot run away from home. I lie. Two, if I go report, my husband to the police or whatever, it will literally backfire on me or whatever. And at least, even though, like I said, in this country, it still goes on, unfortunately, but I feel like at least there's parts of this country where, in terms of structure, once again, in the system, there's some kind of places where you can go for help or try to get help. Do you get what I'm saying?
Again, it's subjective though.
Subjective.
It's
100% subjective.
No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
get where
subjective,
you're
very
going with
subjective.
that, but there are
Yeah.
definitely, excuse me, there are definitely a lot of nuances around that because yes, there are places, but
Yeah.
are these places really suitable? What are the ethics that sit behind it? Are they really there, to support
Absolutely.
people?
Yeah.
We saw the other day with, I'm not going to name the organisation, but somebody called out an institution and then her organization that was supporting individuals had to close down as a result. And it's just little things like that, like things happen, so people may be seeking support from bespoke organizations, but things can happen and impact that, and that then means as a consequence people aren't getting the services that they genuinely need. So yeah, there are definitely services out there, but there are also a lot of things that may hinder or help the organisations support other people.
I'm with you. It's like basically, yeah. Sometimes maybe I might be wrong, but you can correct me. Is it like kind of like using the same analogy that sometimes just be careful who you go to for help once again, because not every help might be good for you personally,
Yeah, so
or
in
it
this,
might not help you fully.
no, that's definitely an analogy. So I mean, sorry, yeah, an analogy.
Yeah.
That's really good, like an example. But in the example that I was just using, the organisation was fine. It's just some of the surrounding things that impacted the organisation. But you know, there are also organisations out there that may not be it's in people's best interest, but. Let's not be negative. There are also a lot of organisations that are out there that are there to support people. So,
Yeah. And just in general, like I'm not gonna say when when all of this is all said and done or whatever, but however you just want to answer this, because I'm so intrigued to actually hear you answer this. Like, what change do you want to make? Like, what change do you want to make into the world?
when I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to change the world. I want to do this. I want to do that. But
You can
as
still do
time's
it?
going on, no, probably I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm getting older now. I'm tired. I just want to sit on a beach.
You look relaxed to
chill.
me. You're saying you're tired. You look relaxed to me,
tired.
girl.
But no, and my career hasn't even taken off as much as it can yet. But like, no, for me, I'm very passionate, like I said, about understanding, the disparities and the issues between police and black communities and marginalized groups essentially. But like I said, I'm starting with black communities because it's what I know. But if I can drive change in any capacity, that would be great. How that looks, I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. But I'm also of the view I understand how big of an issue. The more I research, the more I think it's so big, and I'm just a tiny dot. Like, how can I influence change? But if I can influence change as positively as I can, that would be great. And just maintaining my own integrity, being honest and being transparent, and just being me in the process and not losing myself, because I don't ever want to be that guy. Like, I see people, become something can change, and I still want to be grounded. My family keep me grounded anyway.
Love that, man. Even my
They
family.
don't care about how many degrees I got. They don't care about what I drive. They don't care about what coat I just bought. They don't care. I'm
So it
still
should be. Sorry to even cut you. Yeah, go on.
But no, like, that's for me. It's like I want to make some sort of positive change in any way that I can, or contribute. And I prefer taking backseat roles. I know I've been a lot more. This is the past couple of years. I've been a lot more visible and really stepping out there, which has been really difficult. And I'm still nervous now. But I prefer taking back seats and doing that background work and like trying to support people where I can.
Like in the background.
Yeah, that's my love. Like, if I could sit and research and just feed it to people that actually make the change, that would be great. But I also acknowledge, in order to make change, you have to be the change you want to see. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. And regardless of whatever way you look at it as well, obviously I love football, and I always use this analogy of football. Like, regardless of what position, like where you are in the background or whatever.
Who do you support?
Huh?
Who do you support?
Man United.
Oh, right, okay. Carry on.
Who
They're
you
playing
support?
today, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. This will throw me off. I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah. Oh my. We've got City, the derby.
They're playing today.
Hey, let me get back in the game, because I'm not gonna lie. That would throw me right off. Because now I start overthinking. I hope we win, because chances are we know. But you're triggering me. But yeah, whichever, like, using this football analogy, like what I like to always say to some people, like, regardless of if you're in a background or whatever, as long as you're playing your position and you're contributing somehow, sometimes everybody can't be at the front for whatever. As long as as long as you're playing your position and you're doing whatever you're doing, yeah, man, it's all good, man. Behind or at the front.
So
Either way, it's all
I don't
good.
mind being a striker or a goalie or
Yeah.
centre forward.
Come on.
Yeah,
Leading the line, man. You get me? Playing your position. You get me? And then, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is, like, as long as whichever, like, work that we're trying to get done, as long as it gets done, whatever mission that we're trying to accomplish, whatever, as long as it gets, accomplished, that's the most important thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And I've, along my journey, I'm meeting people that are doing amazing work, and I'm also acknowledging, like you say, playing my position. I'm also acknowledging that I personally can't change everything, but there are people that I know that do some amazing things, and not everything is for me. And that's one thing I really think: not everything is for me.
For real.
So if change means, encouraging other people to do things as well, or taking certain stances where they can, or sharing opportunities, like, that's me. I'm good.
Absolutely.